Hi there, this is Jane, and in this video we're going to talk about some tips for the Rockschool Grade 3 guitar piece Overrated. Now this is from the 2012 to 2018 syllabus. So the first thing we need to do is get the tone right. So what I would do is I'd stick the distortion, not the distortion, your overdrive rather, nice and high, boost the bass and the mid a little bit, and also try sticking it on the neck pickup or maybe blending it between the neck and the bridge depending on your pickup configuration. We want a heavy overdriven sound, but we also want it to be quite warm, and it tends to sound warmer when you're using the neck pickup. So we want a sound that's got quite a bit of bite to it, but that's nice and warm at the same time. So once we've got our tone sorted, then we need to get into the tune. Now the first thing we notice here, we've got some open notes and also some palm muted notes as well, and they're in quite quick succession, so we have to get used to putting the mute on, palm mute, and taking the palm mute off as well. Now we're using an E5 power chord for this. You can either bar your third finger or use your third finger and your pinky, it's up to you. I tend to bar my third finger. So what I would do is I would just practice putting that mute down, and then also taking it off. Do that a few times. And then when you can do that, just reduce the amount of times in between. So you get used to putting it on and off. And when you can get quite a consistent sound with that mute, that palm mute, then you can start having a look at the rhythm in the tune. Now we're playing open notes on beat 1, on the second half of beat 2, and also on beat 4. Okay, and they're accented, those notes. We've got the little arrowhead just below the actual notes in the standard notation, which tells us to just make those stand out a little bit more. Okay, and the notes in between are all palm muted. Okay, we've all got quavers here, so the rhythm sounds like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so get that muted nice and chunky and make sure it's consistent as well when you're taking it off and putting it back on again. Make sure you're keeping your hand in the same place. I'm keeping the side of my palm really close to the bridge, kind of half on the bridge and half off, and it gives it that nice muted sound. It's easy to take it off and pop it back on again. Okay, so once we've done that, we've got a little, to end the riff, we've got a little rest section going on here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the bar that was on the 4th string and the 3rd string, shifting it up to the 5th and the 4th, just to end that section off. And I'm using the same technique for the mutes, but obviously instead of strumming the notes, I'm just using the palm to just stop the notes dead, and that provides you rests. And then also we've got these lovely chords that come in the second time ending. We've got the A add 9 and the B add 11, which is an E-shaped chord, just moving your first finger up to the 6th fret for the A add 9 and up to the 8th fret for the B add 11. Okay, making sure we're getting those two open notes nice and clean, so you're not muting those at all. Now I am using my thumb to mute the 6th string, because that note's not supposed to sound out. But as long as you can keep the rest of it open, and we're playing here 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we've got a dotted crotchets rather, and then a quaver tied into a minim at the end. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's the end of section 1. Now section A. Section B has got your octaves in here. Okay, so we're starting off with an F sharp. Your first finger's at the 9th fret on the 5th string. Your third finger or your pinky is 2 strings down, 2 frets across. That's your octave, same note. Okay, I'm strumming 3 strings here, so I'm strumming the string in between as well, but you can't hear it, it's muted. My first finger is just touching it slightly, so you can't hear that note. Now you've got to be careful when you're doing these octaves, because what tends to happen is people tend to just strum the low note and the muted note and thinking they're strumming the octave and they're not. Okay, so make sure you're strumming all the way down to that 3rd string. Now what I'm also doing as well is I'm muting those top 2 strings, again with my index finger, so if I accidentally go a little bit farther, you don't hear any open notes going on there. Just keeps it a lot neater. Okay, so once you've got used to playing the octaves, muting those notes that you don't want, it's time to start sliding it around. Okay. So what I would do is I would just practice sliding between the individual notes, moving up and down. You can just play each note once. And there's quite a big jump from that 12th fret for your first finger all the way down to the 7th fret there for the last little section. So just practice sliding up and down between those octaves. It shouldn't be too difficult. Usually first and your third fingers are quite strong. Just remember to keep them the same distance apart pretty much. You might have to alter it ever so slightly as you go up to the 12th fret because the frets get slightly closer together. But there shouldn't be much problems with that. Listen to the tune. You've got a tied note on the second half of beat 2, so you don't play on beat 3, you play on the half of beat 3, and you've got that same rhythm pretty much going through that whole section. Watch your second time ending on there, because you've got some rests going on in there again, so make sure you're stopping all the notes nice and clean. So those rests, we don't want to hear a single thing going on with those rests at all. Just punctuates the rhythm quite nicely. Watch for those, because a lot of people forget to put them in, and it adds character and to the rhythm and just makes it a bit more interesting. And then after that, we're moving straight into section C, which takes us down for this nice little single note melody. Now we're moving from the 12th fret all the way down to the 2nd fret for the E note on the 4th string of the 2nd fret. So what I would do is I'd practice going from that octave and taking that first finger down, because it's quite a jump. So if you can do that, it'll make it easier. Okay, and then all we've got to remember for this next section is to keep the 1 finger per fret rule going on. So your first finger is going to be at the 2nd fret, your second finger is going to be at the 3rd fret, third finger at the 4th fret, and your pinky at the 5th fret. As long as you keep that rule, you'll be pretty sorted with this section. We've got a couple of pull-offs and hammer-ons going on here. We've also got some vibrato. Now, when you're doing your vibrato, just wiggle it a small amount. Don't do very pushing it up and down too much, because you'll end up taking the note out of tune. Just want a nice little wobble. Keep it consistent. Try and keep it going up and down by the same amount. That makes it sound nice. So watch out for those vibrato marks. And the rest of it, like I said, is just playing in second position with a few hammer-ons and pull-offs. Not too difficult to rhythm there either. And then after that, still in the same section, section C, we've got some slides. I tend to use the same finger for this. Then we've got some pedal notes. So the pedal note is just when you're playing the open E string in this case with the melody note that's on the 2nd string. So you've got to make sure that your finger stays on its tip so that we can hear that open E note, because if it's not quite on its tip, we're only getting one note coming out. So keep it on its tip and just practice sliding up and down. And to finish that section off, we're sliding from the 5th fret up to the 7th. Then we're moving up to the 9th fret, but then sliding from the 9th fret to the 10th fret, and then going up to the 12th. Remember to keep your fingers on the tips, okay? You want to hear that open E note all the way through that section. Now, section D brings some chords in. It's bringing in an E chord. It's a bar chord, this. It's the main A-shaped bar chord, but we're not playing the lowest note. So you don't need to use 2 fingers, you can just use 1 finger for this. I tend to use my 3rd finger for the E chord, and I'm just barring the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings at the 9th fret. You have to be careful that you're only strumming the strings that you're supposed to be for this. And then when I move down to the B, I'm using my 1st finger, covering the same 3 strings, just for the 4th fret instead. And then after that, we've got the lovely F sharp 7 add 11, which is an E-shaped chord, just with your 1st finger at the 3rd fret. And then that goes up to the A add 9, which you've had already, which was with your 1st finger at the 6th fret. Remember to keep those open notes ringing, and maybe muting that E note, that low E note there. So you might want to practice changing between that B and then this F sharp 7 and 11. Making sure you want to strum the strings that you're supposed to be as well. So that'll help, because that can be quite a tricky change, that one. Okay, making sure that your strumming is nice and accurate. You're really strumming the strings that you're supposed to be. And then after that, we go into the solo. Now, E major pentatonic works really well on this. Pinch some of the techniques that have been used in the tune. We've got some mutes going on, we've got some octaves, we've got our pedal notes. Now my version of the tune, which you can also find, there's a link below, I play my solo all on the second string with a pedal note on every single note. I like the way that sounded. You can choose to use some octaves if you want to, but if you use some of the techniques that are actually in the tune, it'll be in keeping with it, and it just fits in a bit nicer. Okay, so remember to use the E major pentatonic scales, it will sound grand. You've got 8 bars to play around with there. Now after you've done your solo, we're going to section E, which is again an octave melody. We're strumming on all the quavers pretty much here as well. There's a couple of slides going on for this first section. Remembering to keep that. Make sure you can hear that octave. Remember to mute. If you mute the top strings as well, there's that 4th string, just gives you a bit more leeway with your strumming. And then for the next bit, we've got octaves again, but this time we're dropping to the 3rd and the 1st strings. Now because of the way the B string is tuned slightly different to the rest, different interval, our octave now is a fret further along, so we're using our pinky for this. It makes it a little bit more difficult because the pinky tends to not quite be as strong as your 3rd finger. So when you're doing this, practice sliding up and down between these sections. We're going from 7 to 9. We're going from 9 to 11. 11 to 12. And then from the 12 to the 14. Now as you move closer towards the body of the guitar, the frets are getting closer together, so you've got to adjust your pinky ever so slightly so that it's keeping inside the fret, otherwise it might drag over onto the to the 18th fret there and just sound awful. Okay, so you can just sit and practice moving these chords up and down the neck and spreading your fingers out as you're going closer towards the note and just pushing them ever so slightly closer together as you go further towards the body of the guitar. And then once you feel comfortable with that, add the strums in there as well. Now to finish it off, we've got the chords we had before, the E note, which was barring at the 9th fret, the B barring at the 4th, that F sharp 7 at 11, and then that A at 9, I do believe that one was. Rhythm slightly different here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then for the last bar, drop down to an E in first position. Okay, so once you've got that shape down, you just slide it up and down the neck and it's nice and straightforward to finish it off. Okay, so all you've got to remember is to listen very carefully while you're playing this tune. Make sure you're strumming only the strings that you need to with your pick. If you're a bit sloppy here, make sure you're muting the notes with your fretting hand rather. And also when you're playing these pedal notes, keeping your fingers on the tip so you can actually hear the notes. We don't want to mute the notes for the pedal notes. So sometimes you need to be muting notes, sometimes you need to be letting them ringing on. And if you're listening carefully while you're playing, while you're practicing, you make sure you don't make these common mistakes that a lot of people do. They end up with lots of messy strums and open strings ringing out when they shouldn't be, and when they're doing the pedal notes you can't hear the pedal note. Okay, so if you take it nice and slow and play, you don't have to practice it in the order that's in the book. You can take any of these sections in any order, find the bits that are hardest first and do those. I find that's the best way to do it, because if you spend more time working on the harder sections, the easier sections just slot into place. And when you feel fairly comfortable with it, slow the track down if you can, play along. About 50%, 60%. It's quite a fast tune this, it's 125 beats a minute, so I would slow it down a fair amount. It gives you more time to think about what you do and you can be more accurate. If you can play it slowly and accurately, then you'll be able to build the speed up and keep the accuracy going. That's the main thing. If you practice it too fast, you'll end up being sloppy and messy and it will sound terrible and you'll get frustrated because you can't get it to sound any better. So keep it slow, and when you can play it neatly, build your speed up. Small percentages at a time, 60, going up to maybe 63, up in 3s, up in 4s, up in 5% at a time, keeping it nice and steady. And before long, you'll be playing the tune all the way through and having great fun with it. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much. If you found this video helpful, why not subscribe? There's going to be plenty more coming, and there's already lots of interesting and hopefully informative videos on my channel already. You can also contact me via Facebook and Twitter. All the information is in the description below. I provide lessons via Skype for people who are interested. I have quite a few students at the minute all over the country who are studying for their Rockschool exams, or just playing the pieces for fun, or any other tunes for that matter as well. Also on my website, there's lots of interesting lessons on there. Information again is below in the description. I hope you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.